Hey everybody, welcome to a new episode of Loomer Unleashed. I'm your host, Laura Loomer, and on today's episode, we're going to be talking about the Real Housewives of the Florida GOP. Now, if you've been following my Substack reports or any of my election coverage, you'll know that the 2024 presidential election is turning out to be an absolute slugfest. Last week, I exclusively reported and uncovered what seems to include an extreme conflict of interest in the Florida Republican Party. And that's the fact that Florida GOP Chairman Christian Ziegler, as well as Florida GOP Vice Chairman Evan Power, are both married to women who have financial ties to the Ron DeSantis for President campaign. In the case of Christian Ziegler, his wife is Bridget Ziegler, who happens to be a school board member in Sarasota, but most recently, Bridget Ziegler was appointed to a board position on the Reedy Creek District by Governor Ron DeSantis. And in the case of Evan Power, his wife, as I uncovered and exclusively reported last week, is Melissa Power, who happens to be the chief financial officer for the Ron DeSantis for President campaign. So how exactly are these two men, both Christian Ziegler and Evan Power, going to remain neutral in the Florida GOP as the primary nears if their wives are both financially invested in Ron DeSantis becoming the next president of the United States? The answer is simple. They cannot remain neutral if they are in fact financially benefiting in their own household from the Ron DeSantis for President campaign. Now, it's bad enough that this is taking place, but making matters worse is the fact that both Christian Ziegler and Evan Powers both failed to disclose this information to Florida voters. Florida is the largest swing state in the entire country, and so our primary is pretty important here. And although the fact that President Donald Trump is currently leading Ron DeSantis by over 30 points in national polls, that's not stopping the GOP from taking out all of their dirty little tricks to try to deprive Donald Trump of securing the nomination. Now, the GOP was thinking all along that they were going to run Ron DeSantis, knowing that President Donald Trump has currently already been indicted twice and is possibly even facing a conviction. The GOP, being as out of touch with the base as they generally are, was thinking that this was going to somehow turn the average Republican voter off from voting for Donald Trump. However, the exact opposite has occurred, and the more that Donald Trump finds himself being persecuted by the deep state and the more legal troubles that President Donald Trump faces, the more he soars in the polls. It's almost as if the American people can see through this witch hunt for what it is, a witch hunt. Now, Christian Ziegler, Bridget Ziegler, and even Evan Power can deny these allegations all they want, but a quick analysis of Bridget Ziegler's social media shows that she's actively campaigning and supporting the Ron DeSantis for President campaign, even going so far as liking posts by Jill Casey DeSantis, the First Lady of Florida and the wife of GOP presidential candidate Ron DeSantis, talking about his presidential campaign. If you go to Melissa Power's Twitter account, it even says that she is the CFO for Team DeSantis and the wife of Evan Power. But of course, that information was never disclosed publicly to the voters of Florida, who were under the impression that both Christian Ziegler and Evan Power were going to remain neutral. Christian Ziegler's wife, Bridget Ziegler, also appears to be currently employed by the Leadership Institute, a group that, despite its stated mission of providing training for youth and campaigns, grassroots organizing, and communication, has begun shifting their resources to launch what is widely considered a grassroots operation in support of Ron DeSantis. You can see from their own website that it features influencers like Riley Gaines, who recently came out in support of Ron DeSantis and officially endorsed his campaign for president. We also can't overlook the fact that Bridget Ziegler is a co-founder of Moms for Liberty, a grassroots organization that claims to be leading the way in the parental rights movement. Now, you have to understand that everything that Ron DeSantis does is very calculated, and the only reason why he gave Bridget Ziegler, a woman with absolutely no knowledge or educational background in education, a position on the Reedy Creek board, is so that he could buy her husband's loyalty as the Florida GOP chairman in the primary between himself and President Donald Trump. And it looks like that's what's happening. Along with being paid tens of thousands of dollars by Moms for Liberty, Christian Ziegler himself has also expressed statements saying that he hopes to see Moms for Liberty become the foot soldiers to get Ron DeSantis elected to office. So tell me again, how exactly is Florida GOP Chairman Christian Ziegler supposed to be neutral when he's already made these public statements in support of Ron DeSantis? It's disrespectful to the voters of Florida and, quite frankly, to all American voters, given the fact that Florida is the largest swing state in the country, for Christian Ziegler and Evan Power to pretend that they are neutral in the primary between Ron DeSantis and Donald Trump. And what happened after I exposed this information? Well, Florida GOP Vice Chairman Evan Power, of course, took to Twitter to attack me. And instead of taking responsibility for violating his ethical code of conduct and carrying out this blatant financial conflict of interest that undermines his ability to truly remain neutral in his position, he decided to attack the messenger and said that it's people like me that are destroying the GOP. When the Floridian Press reached out and confirmed my reporting and asked Evan Power for comment, he said, quote, "It's not against the rules. It's a circular bullshit argument. The party has nothing to do with the primary." And despite proving the fact that they are violating their code of conduct and they are engaged in an egregious conflict of interest, Evan Power and Christian Ziegler have both declined to change their actions. This is grounds, in my opinion, for both of them having to resign their positions at the Florida GOP. But instead, they have decided to attack the messenger and gaslight the voters by continuing their lie that they are neutral. You don't have to be a rocket scientist or a political strategist to know that it is impossible to be neutral in your position as the chairman or the vice chairman of the Florida GOP if your wife is benefiting either professionally or financially from the Ron DeSantis for President campaign. I'm smart enough to see this. You're smart enough to see this. The voters of Florida are smart enough to see this. And the American people are smart enough to see this. The only people who aren't smart enough to see this or want to continue on as if everything is normal despite being exposed for their political corruption are people like Christian Ziegler and people like Evan Power who are doing the bidding of the Ron DeSantis for President campaign. Election integrity is the most important issue facing our country today. And who cares about election integrity if you're not going to be willing to call out the political corruption that is taking place in your own political party? As Republicans and as conservatives, we have an obligation to call this out. I have an obligation as a journalist to inform Floridians and to inform American voters of these blatant conflicts of interest that undermine true election integrity in our country. And I'll keep doing so all the way until the end of the 2024 presidential election. If you enjoyed this report and you found it informative, please be sure you subscribe to my Substack today. It's free to subscribe, but of course I am an independent journalist, and so upgrading your subscription to $7 per month or $70 per year helps support my investigative journalism so that I can keep delivering you informative reports like this one today. Also, please be sure that you're following me on Twitter, Truth Social, Gab, and Getter at Laura Loomer so that you never miss any of my exclusive updates and reports. I'd also like to take a moment to thank the sponsor of this episode of Loomer Unleashed, Goldco. Banks are getting bailed out, and who's going to pay for it? You are. They say that taxpayers won't pay, and they say that other banks will pay. But how are those banks going to get the money? They'll probably raise your bank fees like they always do. And if the Fed step in, you'll likely also be paying an inflation tax. In times like this, storing all your money in a bank may be very risky, as we have seen. So what can two average Joes like you and I even do about it? You can protect your wealth with gold and silver, just like so many other Americans and even banks are doing right now. Call 855-317-5157 or visit goldco.com/Laura Loomer to learn how to protect your savings with gold and silver. Take action today to protect yourself and your family from financial collapse. Again, call 855-317-5157 or visit goldco.com/Laura Loomer and learn how you could get up to $10,000 in bonus silver while supplies last. That's 855-317-5157 or goldco.com/Laura Loomer. See you next time on Loomer Unleashed.